Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Bible Q&A. Today we're discussing why did the Bible call Jesus the King of Kings? First off, let's define what a king is. A king is someone who rules over a territory and its people. For example, Henry VIII was the King of England because he governed the island nation and ran its affairs. Many nations in Europe have monarchs, but in most of them, it is now members of parliament or senators who actually govern the people. Similarly, God is a king because he has total sovereignty over the cosmos and those who live there. As it was said in 1 Chronicles, both riches and honor come of thee, and thou reignest over all, and in thine hand is power and might, and in thine hand it is to make great, and to give strength unto all. 1 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 12. The universe is his kingdom, and we are his subjects. However, if God is a king, then how is Jesus a king? Well, let's take a visit to Saudi Arabia. Normally, the King of Saudi Arabia holds the title of Prime Minister, but in 2022, King Salman decided to give the latter title to his son, Mohammed bin Salman. This means that it is Mohammed who is actually doing most of the governing of the country, even though Salman is still the king. Similarly, God has handed control of his kingdom over to his son, after a long transition described in Luke chapter 19 verses 11 to 27, while still remaining king. As it was said in 1 Corinthians, "Then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to God, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power." 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 24. The verse tells us that Christ will hand the kingdom back to God once he has finished dealing with his enemies, who we'll discuss later. Now that we've talked about what a king is and how Jesus counts as one, let's discuss what it means to be a King of Kings. The title means the greatest of all kings, just like the Holy of Holies was the holiest place in Israel. Leviticus chapter 16 says it was so holy that only the high priest could enter it, and no more than once a year. Similarly, Jesus is such a mighty king that his power dwarfs that of all other rulers. He will eventually overthrow all earthly governments, who will accept his own government's sovereignty over them. As it was said in Isaiah, "And it shall come to pass in the last days, that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it." Isaiah chapter 2 verse 2. No one can challenge his leadership or end it, according to Daniel chapter 7 verses 13 to 14. However, he isn't just the mightiest king, he's also the most just one. Just like Abraham Lincoln is considered by many to be the greatest American president because he fought to keep the Union together and free of slavery, Christ is described as the greatest king because he is working to defeat evil and bring peace to humanity. Isaiah chapter 11 verses 2 to 4 show us just how virtuous Jesus is. He is wise and understanding. He can't be bribed or manipulated. He is fighting for the poor. If an earthly leader was even a tenth as virtuous as this, his nation would drastically improve. With all his mental and spiritual gifts, Christ has overthrown Satan, the former dictator, according to John chapter 12 verse 31, and his ministers have been imprisoned, according to Jude verse 6, because of all the things they have done to make humanity miserable. He has replaced the devil's government with his own, led by himself and 144,000 saints, mentioned in Revelation chapter 14. These saints are going out and undoing the damage that Satan has caused. As it was said in Matthew, "The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth." Matthew chapter 13 verses 41 to 42. After describing how Jesus governs, Isaiah chapter 11 goes on to illustrate what his kingdom will eventually look like. Predators will peacefully coexist with prey. Everyone will know the Lord. Outcasts will be welcomed. And remember, 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 24 tells us that, unlike many leaders on earth, Jesus will step down once he is finished with his work. He will do this even with all the power and glory he has acquired, because he understands that true power comes from humility. He told us, in a verse that all rulers should remember, "For whosoever exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted." Luke chapter 14 verse 11. And that is where I'm going to stop with this Bible Q&A. Why did the Bible call Jesus the King of Kings? Jesus is the King of Kings because he is the most powerful, most virtuous, and most humble ruler that the world has ever seen. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.